Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we are going to discuss strings. So we've seen strings before in a print function. So we said you can basically print a text by wrapping it around quotation mark, like the text hello. So we said that whatever you put between this quotation mark is called a string. And we also mentioned strings and the data type you can store in a variable. So we said you can store integer, float, or a string. So today we are going to go into more details onto what exactly is a string. So let's see. A string is a sequence of character. So character is a general word for many things like letters, numbers, or we call them digit as well, punctuation, spaces, special symbols. So any of these fall under what we call character. So if you create a variable, a string variable is called name. Okay. You want to store a string inside it. So equal sign, then quotation mark, and you can put anything from these categories from either letters, digit, punctuation, spaces, special symbols. And this will be called a string. Okay, so an example of this is Adam. Okay. Also, as an important note in Python, that a string can be written inside a double quote or single quote. So you can create another string by using single quotes instead of double quote, and you can put anything here as well. Both of these are totally equivalent. Both of these methods will result in a string. Okay, so a problem. How can I form the string I am a student with a quotation mark inside it? Okay, so how can you do this? Also, how can I form the string he said you did it with double quote inside it? So let's see why this might be a problem in Python. Let's move to Jupyter. Here I am creating a variable called statement, or for short, let's use sent for sentence, equal to double quote, and I will use the second example. He said, colon, you did it. However, notice how in the example we have double quote around you did it. So you have code starting from here and ending right here. So we have the double quote that wrap the string, and we have quotation that is part of the string. Okay, so why is this a problem? Simply, this is a problem because Python will think this double quote is closing this double quote. So Python will consider this is your string, and now everything after it is something floating around without any quotation, which is not allowed like this. So how do you solve this problem? There are two ways to solve the problem. So let's start with the straightforward way. We said that you can wrap a string with double quote or single quote. So in this case, if you want to use double quote inside, just surround your string with single quote. So here I am surrounding the string with single quote. So I can use double quote inside with no problem at all. You can see this if I print sent, there is no problem. Similarly, in the second example, if I want to write I am a student, what do? You basically use double quote because I am using single quote inside. So I will write my string with double quote. I am a student. And I can just print the variable and it will show as I expected. Now assume you have a mix of double and single quote inside one string. So assume you want to write a statement like this. He said, double quote, single quote, a student, so, and close the double quote. Now, what should you put outside the string? Should you use double quote or single quote? If you use double quote, you will have a problem with this. And if you use single quote, you will have a problem with this right here. So what do? The second way, of dealing with quotation mark inside your string is to do the following. So I will write send equal to double quote. Then he said, colon, here I want to write double quote, which is part of my string, but I know they will cause a problem. So what do I write? I write a slash before them, then the quote, okay. And here I will write I, single quote, a student. I want to close my double quote here. So another slash and double quote. Okay, and now I can add the quote that is closing my string. So again, the quotations here are for the string. They wrap the string. And the quotation right here are part of the string. And why I am using backslash before them in order to basically tell Python these are part of the string. They are not closing the opening code, or so things don't get messed up. So let's see. I print sent. I will see exactly what I'm expecting. Okay, so you might wonder why I didn't write backslash here, because single quote is not causing a problem with double quote in the outside. Okay, only when I have double quote inside and double quote outside, I'll have a problem. So the single quote is not causing a problem. I don't need backslash before it. This idea of putting backslash before a string, before a quotation, is called escape sequence. Because you are telling Python, basically, this is something different from what you might expect. So don't count this as the quotation that is closing this. No, count this as a part of the string. So this is called escape sequence. Now, if you want to use single quote outside, let's copy this. Assume you want to use single quote outside, like this. So now the double quote inside are not causing a problem. So you can just write them normally. The single quote is causing the problem. So you write backslash before it, you run, and you have the exact same output. Okay, so let's get back here. Next, we have this idea of the length of a string, which is basically how many characters we have in one string. And you can get this by using the method or the function len. Okay, so len is a function. You can give it a string, and it will basically return the output of this function will be the number of characters. So in this case, if I call len, I use the function len with the string Harry and store the result inside the variable n. Okay, so what is the result stored here? It will be 5 because there are 5 characters in the string. Okay, what about this case where I have len of just quotation mark, nothing inside? How many characters is in here? No character. So this will return 0. And this is what we call empty string. Okay. And one important note is len is a built-in function. So you don't need to write any import statement to use it. Okay. Next, we have the idea of string concatenation. Let's introduce this with an example. So assume you have a variable called first name equal to Adam and last name equal to Smith, and you want to combine them in a variable called full name. Okay, so there is an operation called concatenation, which is basically just adding to a string in a longer string. So first name plus last name. This will add or concatenate both strings into one final string. So if I print full name, notice the result, you have Adam and Smith. So the first string is basically attached to the second string, and we store the result inside full name. Now, if you want to print this properly by adding a space, you have to concatenate the space into the string. So what do? You do the following. Come right here, and I will add a third string. The third string is just one space, like this. So I am concatenating first name with a space, then I am adding the last name at the end. So when I run this, I get proper full name. This operation again is called string concatenation. Okay, can I concatenate a string plus integer? The answer is no. Let's see this in Jupyter. Assume you've got a variable called my grade equal to 5, and you have part 1 of a sentence which says I got, and the second part of the sentence is in the exam, and you want a variable called full sent to be I got 5 in the exam. So what do? You might think I can just concatenate everything together. So create a variable full sent equal to sent1 plus my grade plus sent2. So, and I would like to print full sent. Now when I run this, you get an error. Basically, the error is saying you can only concatenate string with a string. You cannot concatenate a number with a string. So the correct way to do this is to use what we call the string function. Okay, this is a function. You can put here a number like 5, or the variable that is storing the number like my grade. And the str function will put whatever you have here inside a string, and it will return it. Okay, so if you put this in a variable called g, the str function will return 5 inside a string. Okay, so we can do this right here. I can write my grade equal to str my grade. So in this level here, my grade is the integer 5. The str function will put it inside a string, and I will store the result in my grade. So my grade on the left is storing the string representing number 5. This is one way of doing it. A shorter way of doing this is to simply come right here and put the str function call. So here I will be concatenating the sent1 variable plus a string containing number 5 plus sent2. When I run this, I get exactly what I expect. You just need to add a space to make it look better. So you can write here you add one space, and after it, you add another space. Okay, let's move back. String repetition. So one operation you can perform with strings is to repeat it. Okay, how you do this? Let's see. So assume you have a variable called short laugh equal to HA, and you want a longer laugh. So you simply write this short laugh, star sign, then how many times you want to repeat the short laugh. So assume if I write 8 and print long laugh, I will get the string HA repeated 8 times. Okay, this is one common mistake, is that whenever you see a string multiplied by a number, you assume this will cause an error. However, this is not true. A string multiplied by integer is called string repetition, which is totally fine. Okay, so let's move on. We see how to convert number to a string. Okay, let's see another example. Write a program that creates an email address from student ID. The email address should look like this. So S, then the student ID at uni.edu, where the hash signs represent the student ID. So basically, you can have a variable called STUID equal to some number. And you want to create an email variable which is equal to S plus the student ID plus the string at uni.edu. So we know that you cannot concatenate a number like this with a string. What you should do, you should use the string function like this. So now I have a proper email address. How about converting strings to number? Okay, so assume you have a variable called my grade. Again, this time this is 5. Okay, but 5 is inside a string. And you won't use my grade in a calculation. For example, you want to calculate the number of points you get based on a credit hour. So assume you want to multiply 4 by my grade, but you cannot do this. If you do this, it will be string repetition. Okay. However, I want to multiply to count my point in this course, for example. So what do? I want to convert this to integer. You can use the int function. So you write 4 int my grade equal to point. So basically the int function will do as expected. If this variable is representing an integer, okay, so the variable content, the string content is representing an integer like 5, and here it will be converted to the number 5 without any string, so 5 as integer. And this will result in basically 20. We'll store it in points. If the number is not representing integer, if it's representing a float, for example, like this, there is another function called float. You can use it. So this will basically return 3.9 as a float. Okay. Notice how I said here, if applicable. So if you have a string like this is not representing a number. So you cannot use int or float to convert it to a number. Okay. The string you have must be representing a valid integer if you use int, or a float if you use float. Okay, so can I do this? Can I write 17 star 29 and convert it to float? The answer is no. because expression like multiplication are not allowed inside float or integer. Just straight out, you have to put numbers. Okay, now we move to the concept of Unicode. So let's see. Anything inside a computer is represented as numbers. Even images are represented as numbers, okay? So characters, any character you have in any language, so from A to capital Z and small a to small z, even the character representing numbers like 1, 5, and so on, all of these will have a corresponding number, okay, that is stored in the computer whenever you use this character. So what is this number called? It's called the Unicode. This is basically a system in the world. It includes many languages and other characters, also like exclamation marks and so on, special symbols. And it assigns basically a number to each character. Okay, it's assigned a number to each character. This number is called the Unicode. Okay, so in Python, you have these two functions, the CHR function and the ORD function. They are basically the reverse of each other. The CHR, you give it the Unicode like 70, okay, and it will give you the character corresponding to this Unicode. The ORD, you give it a character and it will give you the Unicode corresponding to this character. So let's see them in practice. I will come right here and I will write print CHR, for example, 70. So what character is corresponding to the Unicode number 70? The answer is capital F. Okay, so if I write print ORD F, what do you expect? Of course, 70, because again, these functions are the opposite of each other. Here you give the Unicode, it will give you the character. Here you give the character, it will give you the Unicode. Let's see other examples. Let's see this. So what is the character corresponding to this Unicode? The answer is this letter in Arabic, Shin. How about this? What is the character corresponding to this Unicode? The answer is this emoji. Notice how even emojis are represented in Unicode. And you can take this, for example, in the ORD function. So I'm asking Python, what is the Unicode of this emoji? And it will tell me exactly 128.514. Okay. Next, we will move to this idea of indexing. Okay, this is an important operation to perform on strings. I want to get the first character in a string. Okay, so assume I have the string Adam in a variable called name, and I want to get the first character, which is the letter capital A. What do? I will write something like this. So the variable name, then square brackets, then the position or index that I am interested in. So here I'm interested in the first position, so I will write 0. Index and position always start from 0. So here, capital A is at index 0, D at 1, A at 2, and M at 3. So if I store this in a variable called, for example, first, then this operation will extract capital A, and I will store it inside the variable first. Okay, so again, index is a position, and we start counting from 0. This operation here is called indexing, which is extracting a specific character from a string. Let's see this in Jupyter first. So if I come down here and I write name equal to Adam, then I print name and I want the index at 0. What do I get? Capital A. If I put 2, I get A, small a. If I get 3, I have M. If I put 4, I get index error. So string index out of range. Why is that? Because the last index, the last position in this example is 3. You have 0, 1, 2, 3. So when I try to extract the character at index 4, Python is telling me there is no such index, okay, index error. So what type of error is this? This is a runtime error. If you recall, errors are either compile time or runtime. This is a runtime error. Okay. So let's solve this problem. How can I get the middle character in a string? Okay, how can I get the middle character in a string? So let's assume I want the middle character. Assume here we have even number. Assume I want to take the small a. So what do I do? Let's add a new cell and see. I create a variable name equal to Adam. Then I will print name at 2, right? This is totally fine. I am getting the middle character in the name. However, this is not generic, okay? So it will not work if I have a name with different length, like this. Let's have it like this. So it is even number of character. So here I am expecting T, however, I'm getting I, okay? So how to solve this problem? Let's see. Notice how the middle character is at the position equal to number of character over 2. So how do I get the number of character? I can get it by the function len, right? Then I take this number divided by 2 and use it to index. So how do I do this? Let's assume I have name equal to Smith, or let's go back to Adam. Then I create a variable n equal to len of name. Then I will print name at index n over 2. Okay, but remember, division like this might result in a float, or will result in a float, in fact. So instead, I want the integer division, which is the one with the double slash, remember. And here I have 4. This will give me basically 2, right? So when I run this, I get small a. Take the example right here, you will get T as expected. So this method is generic. It will work for any string. You just take the length of the string, store it in a variable, and divide by 2. Okay, of course, you can use it without storing it in a variable, and you divide immediately. All right. So a quick practice here. What is the output in this program? If I print mystery, notice how the string is Harry. I am calculating the length. How many characters do I have here? I have 5. So len will return 5. And I want the string at position 0. So the character at position 0 from this variable. This is h. And the character at position n minus 1. So n is 5, n minus 1 is 4. And you can basically count from 0 up to 4. You will find this is y. Okay. The general idea is the character at len minus 1 is always the last character. Okay. So mystery here will be hy. Okay. Now let's ask the following question. How can I get the user input in a program. So you create a variable, you want the value of this variable to come from the user. How do you do it? You will see by solving this problem. Write a program that prompts the user for first name, then last name, then output the initials of the user. The word prompts just mean ask for input. Ask for input or ask the user to do something. So I want to prompt the user to enter his name, first and last. Then I will output the initials of the user. So let's see how do I do this. So I will create the variable first name. Okay, the content of this variable will come from the user. So the correct way to read user input is to use the function input. Okay, now this is a function that performs two basic tasks. So the first task is it will display a message to the user. Okay, it will display a prompt to the user. Where do you put this message? You put it as argument. So I will come between the parentheses and I will write a simple string like, please enter your first name. So the input function will start by displaying this message. The second task of the input function is read user input and return it. So basically after the message is displayed, Python will wait for user input. If the user types something, it will take it and return it. So you can store it in a variable like this. So in this case, let's see how to write a full program by reading the user input. So another variable last name equal to, again, input, please enter your last name. And here I will create a variable initials. Basically, I will extract the first character of the first name. Now, where is the first name stored? In this variable. So I will write variable name. And how would I extract the first character? By indexing. So you will write square brackets, then the position or the index of the first character, which is 0. Then I will add or concatenate the first character of the last name. So last name, square brackets, 0. Again, here I am getting the first character of the first name, the first character of the last name, combine them, store them in the variable initials. Then I will print the variable initials. Small typo right here, and we are good to go. Run this. Notice how I have the message of the first input function. Okay, please enter your first name. So Python is waiting for me. Okay, notice how I have a star right here on the left. This means that this cell is still running. Okay, and actually Python is waiting for user input. So I can type Adam, then hit enter. Basically, the input function will take this, store it in the variable first name. And now I have the second input function waiting for my input, Smith. Okay, it will be taken and stored in last name. So I hit enter. The program is completed and I have the initials right here. Okay, another problem. Write a program that prompts. Again, prompts mean ask the user for input. Prompt the user for a price of a product, then calculates and output the price plus the tax. Assume you have 15% tax on products, okay? So usually, if you want to calculate the total, you will just write price multiplied by 1.15. correct? So let's see what will happen if I do this. Here I will create a variable price. The content of this variable will come from the input function. So I will write a message to the user, a prompt, please enter the price. Then I will calculate the total as price multiplied by 1.15 and print total. Notice how when I run this and enter, for example, 10, I get an error, okay? The error is saying you cannot multiply a float by a string, okay? So what is the issue here? The issue is the input function is always returning a string. So when I type 10, okay, right here, what is returned and stored in the variable price is this, the string 10, okay? So input function always returns a string. So if you want to deal with this as a number, you have to convert it, okay? And the correct way to do this is to write int, to use the int function around the variable. However, the price can be a real number, a float. So to be more general, use the float function. Now when I run this and I print or I input 10, I get my total as 11.5, okay? So the lesson here is input always return a string. If you want it as a number, use the float function. Okay. One common theme you will notice is that if you know the variable is only going to be used as a number, we can wrap the input function inside a float function like this. So what will happen here is that I am calling the input function and I am taking the result, then converting it immediately to float. Okay, both ways are correct. Sometimes you will need to do it like this. Sometimes you don't need to, so you will do it immediately like this. This will work exactly the same, and you will have your total 11.5. So let's see. The last lesson in this video is input returns a string all the time. Okay, keep this in mind. So that's it for this video, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.